Inspired talks of Swami Vivekananda. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Sachit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Netapaharine. So we are discussing now Inspired talks of Swami Vivekananda, the conversation that he had on July 15th, 1895. Those of you who have this book, Inspired Talks of Swami Vivekananda, you can open that part. And those of you who have taken admissions in our Indian Spiritual Heritage course, for them, just one small information that you can listen from any point because ideas get repeated. And if you want to understand religion and if you want to understand Vedanta as also spirituality, there can never be a better work than this Inspired Talks. Those of you who have joined late, if it be possible for you, do listen to earlier talks, maybe from the beginning. It's not needed. Not needed in the sense that it's like a cake you can eat from anywhere. It's uniform cake, not with some topping. It's not that Swamiji is leading from point A to point B. And now that these are our classes, towards the end, that means last 5-10 minutes, we'll stop the discussion and have an open session. In case you have any question based on the talk that we had today, or maybe any related topic, you can type the question, I'll answer it. If there are no questions, we will end the class. Swamiji is discussing women empowerment. Begins with that. And Swamiji takes two examples. One is from Tibet and Tibetan influence. And there is Malabar, that is Kerala. Swamiji had moved around after the Mahasamadhi, that is passing away of Sri Ramakrishna in 1886. For nearly 6 years, off and on, he had moved throughout the country. And for his time, I think, my personal opinion, I may be wrong, he must have been the only person who had traveled so well throughout the country. That's my opinion. Because in those days, people did not travel much. Usually people went for pilgrimage and those places were fixed. So, and most importantly, the communication was very poor in those days. Swamiji was moving around. Those of you who are interested in the life of Swamiji, you should read the biography of Swamiji. And the best book is Life of Swami Vivekananda by his Eastern and Western disciples, published by Advaita Ashram. That's the best book in 2 volumes. You can read the portion when Swamiji is moving throughout the country. It's wonderful. Just wonderful. He was traveling by every possible means, very often on foot. That is when he discovered India, and that is when he discovered the soul of India. It is one thing to know spirituality, maybe through your meditation, maybe through samadhi. But if you are a prophet, you need to know your people. Those of you who have been a teacher, teaching in a school, college, university, some institution, some coaching institute, or if no one else, your kids. Know that you may be knowing a subject and you may be very good at that subject. But to teach successfully, you must know the mind and soul of the person whom you are teaching. If you are not good at studying your pupils, you will not be able to teach. Sri Ramakrishna was the incarnation of the age, and whatever discoveries he had to make, whatever sanctity he had to give to all the spiritual truths and all the scriptures of India, he did. But he also wanted that this be preserved. How do you preserve? How do you preserve a knowledge? I'm asking you, genuinely asking you. I wish we were in a class and we could have discussion. How do you preserve a knowledge? You will think by writing it down. But then there are many manuscripts about whom we don't even know. By passing on to your disciples. No, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. If you really want to preserve a knowledge, real, you need to create a culture. Only way to preserve a culture, to preserve a knowledge is to create a culture. You know, once I was having a look at the books of our Belur Math library. Wherever I go, I generally try to visit the library of that center or that place, whatever institution that we. I love going through the books that they have. That way, you know what kind of culture they have. The Belur Math library is a very old library. It's open only for the monks. It's a private library kind of thing, and we have books that were read by even by Swami Vivekananda and gifted by Swami Vivekananda. Signature is there, gifted by him to Belur Math library, because that library started when Swamiji was still there. Now, I came across a book, series of books. It was on Italian architecture of 15th or 16th century. All the famous architects of Italy, their biography and their work, it was there in English. Originally, the book was written in Italian during that period. And that was one of those moments when you say, Eureka moment for me. That yes, this is it. Architecture in Italy had advanced to such a level that you had many architects, so many architects, wonderful architects, that you have a series of books on the biography of those architects of 16th century or 15th century. I don't remember well. And that is when I realized that, look, if you think that the knowledge that you have discovered is something important, first thing you need to do is create a culture. If you have someone who is exceptionally good, for example, we keep on talking about Aryabhat, Varahamihir. We keep on talking about books like Surya Siddhanta. We keep feeling proud that India discovered zero. Perfectly all right. But What percent of Indian population knew of these things? Forget percent, just the number, extremely limited. And yet, when Galileo was making experiments on gravitation, people knew about it. When Newton was doing his work on fundamentals of physics, people knew about it. At least the learned ones. They had succeeded in creating the culture. We succeeded in creating the culture of spirituality and religion. No doubt about it. That's why whatever you see in India, whether that be dance, whether that be music, sculpture, painting, whatever it is, everything is rooted in religion. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, when he came up with these wonderful, wonderful discoveries through his samadhi, as recorded in his Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, what exactly Sri Ramakrishna is talking? Synthesis of religion? Not at all. A very small part. In fact, rarely you will come across where he says faiths, paths. Rare. What exactly is Sri Ramakrishna's contribution? Every incarnation, when God incarnates, he does something very special. The most important thing that he does is he re-establishes religion. Sri Ramchandra did the same thing. Sri Krishna did the same thing. Sage Kapil did the same thing. And the other incarnations, like when God incarnated as a fish, as a boar, as a man lion, he did the same thing. What did Sri Ramakrishna do as far as religion is concerned? He sanctified every scripture. I very often say that if Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda had not come, and if I had not been truly deep into this, had I studied Gita and Upanishads, I would have thought, oh, what wonderful expressions, such a wonderful outlook, such a wonderful life philosophy. Today I know that every word of Upanishads and every word of Gita is fundamentally true. Fundamentally true means it doesn't change with time. There are certain truths, they are confined in time and space. And there are truths which are fundamental, they don't change. Hinduism specializes in that. It harmonizes two kinds of truth. No religion can do it. Hinduism is, its fundamentals are something, and the dynamic aspect of Hinduism is something different. The dynamic aspect keeps changing. Generally, what happens? Other religions are continuously dynamic, and such religions wither away, or they're extremely static. They become fanatic, they become fossilized. Sri Ramakrishna showed how what the Vedas say, the Upanishads say the same thing, Gita, Puran, Tantra, they all say the same thing. Spirituality, as we shall see, spirituality became the truth. Now, this had to be preserved. Acharya Shankar also says that a teacher needs a very good disciple who will carry the message forward. So you have to create a culture. Just imagine if Swami Vivekananda had not toured throughout the country and if he had not gone to the West, what would have happened to the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna? Some people, some disciples would have preserved them, and people who knew about that would have thought, oh, nice, wonderful, very good. One more saint. And there it would have ended. But that's not what Sri Ramakrishna came for. To create culture, you have to know people. Sri Ramakrishna's words were not to be preached because he was not actually preaching something new. Whatever some of our preachers may say, the most important thing that Sri Ramakrishna did was he gave a thorough validity of every scripture by his own personal spiritual experiences without ever having read those scriptures. He first experienced them and then he heard about them, those scriptures. So he learned Advaita from Totapuri. He had his realization and then forced Totapuri to be with him for 11 months so that he could know what Vedanta is. This is an aspect that requires meditation. If not meditation, at least contemplation. Sit silently. Just try to feel that every word that has been spoken in Hindu scriptures, every sentence that you read is fundamentally valid. First, because those words had come from the sages, the rishis. And second, Sri Ramakrishna vetted them, cleared. Yes, true. So Swami Vivekananda had to create that culture. Mostly in India, partly in the West. The rest had to be done by time. Time does a lot. So he went everywhere. He moved around. Places he went, amazing. And that's how he came across Tibetan culture. That Tibetan culture you will still find if you go from Shimla to Kalpa side, Kalpa, Kaza, and otherwise if you go to Kelang, up to Kelang. So that area, that entire area in India still has Tibetan culture where polyandry is practiced, where just like Draupadi, one female has many husbands. Many husbands means every male member of a husband. It is still practiced, still there. In fact, during Indira Gandhi's time when she was the prime minister, lots of females wrote that this practice be stopped because they were not getting husbands. More or less, the ratio is same, say 50-50. Now, one female is getting 3, 4, 5 male members. So naturally, many remain unwed. Anyway, that's a sociological problem, not my job. And Vyas, they must have come to know about it because Vyasa, he was near Kurukshetra, which is not very far from Shimla. Kurukshetra, Chandigarh, and then Shimla. So he must have known about this culture. So maybe he created this, or maybe it was really practiced. We have no idea about what exactly happened with the Pandavas. The story is there, and we have to take it the way that story is. Swamiji is here talking not about polyandry, he's talking about women empowerment. Imagine 1890s, the time when there was practically no education for females in India. Imagine when Bengal had practically just been freed of sati system. And that was the period when females used to get married off while still sitting in the lap of her grandfather. Even Holy Mother Sri Sarda Devi, she was married off when she was hardly 5 years old. In those days, Swami Vivekananda, the prophet of modern India, is talking about women empowerment. But most importantly, we were still ruled by the British, which is a very important, because what happens, what most people don't realize, in general, people are scared of two things, particularly in villages, not villages, practically everywhere. People are generally scared of two things. One is abduction of their female, defilement of their female. Second is fire. People are extremely scared of fire. They're not that scared of floods. Fire is extremely terrifying thing. And second is defilement of their female. So if you take away their wealth, they don't mind. If you take away a person's life, they don't mind. But they fear attack on their females. And they fear fire. When invaders came to India, they stuck exactly there. Today, India talks about Akbar. Akbar, considered to be one of those liberals. What people don't talk about is that he used to burn down hundreds of villages, so that there would be forests where he would go for hunting expeditions. If you want to terrify, if you want to terrify a population, you only need to put fire. And the invaders were very good at that. As for defilement of female, it is still there. And we don't want to get into unnecessary controversies. Those of you who know, who read newspapers and who are into current affairs would know how people of other religion are continuously targeting Hindu females. Continuously. However, when a race is completely free, when it doesn't fear attack, it becomes like a tortoise who is spreading its limbs. When scared, tortoise withdraws its limbs. Hindu race has been scared, has been a scared race for thousands of years. Whatever these seculars and liberals may say, it's a fact. You only have to listen to the stories of your grandparents, how they have seen things. So it was natural for our forefathers to take steps to protect these females. When Swamiji was talking, independence of India was still half a century away or little more. But he wanted women empowerment. So two things that he is discussing, one from Tibet and another from Kerala, that is Malabar, about women empowerment. Where there is polyandry as in Tibet, women are physically stronger than the men. When the English go there, these women carry large men up the mountains. Those of you might have read the book by Rudyard Kipling, Kim. Kim is a young boy who becomes a British spy, and he kind of moves from Lucknow to Delhi to Shimla and to Kalpa region in Himachal Pradesh. And it is to the credit of Rudyard Kipling. Rudyard Kipling was posted in those parts, so he knew a lot about it. And he beautifully describes polyandry there and how how the female is the head of the family, and everyone of the family will listen to what she says. It's beautifully described there. So Kim is helped by one of those females. It's beautiful. The description. In Malabar, although, of course, polyandry doesn't obtain there, the women lead in everything. This is about women empowerment. This is the great credit of Prophet they can see in future. Today India is free. India is awakening. And our women are getting more empowerment. Let's wait for another 50 years or 100 years. You will see that women get much more empowerment automatically. So first thing is they get very good physical health. And you can see that in the Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, etc. Females are performing so well now. Earlier it would have been unthinkable. Women taking part in sports would have been simply unthinkable. Even when we were young, if school girls had a competition, we used to go and laugh. Stupid us. Oh, girls are running, come let's see. That was unthinkable for us. And once they got married, it was unthinkable that they will get into any such thing. Now, things are opening up. It's new India, it's India rising. Exceptional cleanliness is apparent everywhere, and there is the greatest impetus to learning. This is what happens. Physical strength and learning give empowerment, and the result of empowerment will be known through these two things: physical strength, secondly, learning, love for learning. If you see that females of a society are scholarly and learned, for example, we know of lots of rishikas, female sages, who contributed to the Vedic corpus. So you know that there was women empowerment. In Brihadaranyaka, when you read of Gargi and Maitreyi, you know that there was empowerment because there was Gargi who could argue with the great scholar of his time, Yagyavalkya. Not that it died out completely; it was there. We had we had some of these Hindu queens too, but in general, as I mentioned, culture was missing, and now let's hope that that culture comes up. Those of you who are listening, if you have females in your house, just try to give these two things: physical strength and learning. I know this one young lady who I mentioned in the class, Piali. She is PhD in computers and devoted to learning. And she is also black belt in karate, 2 dan, and she represented India in one of those international competitions. And she is a great devotee and she listens to each of my talks. I always feel this is the kind of India we want. Where this young lady, she's hardly 30, she has represented India. She is a PhD in computers from Kolkata University. Her husband is also same, both of them. This is a sign of women empowerment. And she comes from a family where just one generation back, females had not even seen the face of a school. Like, more or less, I mean, figuratively. When I myself was in that country, I met many women who spoke good Sanskrit, while in the rest of India, not one woman in a million can speak it. Swamiji had special fascination for Sanskrit learning. He wanted that Sanskrit learning should really increase in India. And I have a desire to have this lectures from Colombo to Almora in English, this talk series, because those are the Indian lectures by Swami Vivekananda. And the entire thing is about India, Indian culture, religion, spirituality, future. There also he says, with Sanskrit goes prestige. So in Malabar, it says many women. Rest of India is pathetic. And then he says, mastery elevates and servitude debases. This is the thing. Mastery elevates. If you want to grow in life, feel that you are the master. If you want to make others grow, supposing you have kids at home, you want them to grow up, make them feel that they are the masters. A servitude that ruins, debases. Today, when we have this democracy in India, whatever that might mean, at least most people feel that they are free to do anything. And you can see that power, sometimes in wrong channels. That doesn't matter, because first you need power, then comes direction. If you have only direction, it's of no use. If you have only character, it's of no use. First, you need power. You need to feel that you are the big boss, you are the master. So, Swamiji is giving us two examples from absolutely two different corners of India: extreme north, extreme south, Kerala and Tibet. Mastery elevates. How do you know that there is mastery? Only two: physical strength, education. Because wealth, etc., can be acquired by anyone. Acquiring wealth is a very simple thing. But acquiring physical strength and acquiring knowledge, these two require time. One can acquire wealth even, say, maybe in a lottery. I'm talking figuratively. That means your luck opens and you suddenly become a millionaire. But learning cannot come that way, nor your physique. You need sustained effort. Sustained. And that shows women empowerment. Swamiji was all favor of women empowerment. And as I mentioned that he was talking at a time when these things were unthinkable in India. Unthinkable. When he invited Margaret Noble, later sister Nivedita, it was with this purpose that if she could kind of start some schools and start the spread of education amongst females. Because ultimately, the fate of a race depends on its females. Whatever the feminists may say, and whatever these, there are many new terms, some of which I can't even pronounce. I mean, I find it so difficult. These are Newton. It's a fact. And facts you can fight, but you cannot deny. Fate of a race depends on females. Females need to be protected. Females need empowerment, both at the same time. Even a great person like Manu, he did the same thing. He was for both these things, empowerment as also protection. People don't read Manu Smriti, so they don't know. They will just say that he was anti-female, anti-woman. No, he was not. The two principles of protection and empowerment runs throughout Manusmriti. Malabar has never been conquered either by the Portuguese or by the Musalmans, as I was mentioning, and this is such a tricky thing that we can't even enter this topic. That what the Portuguese have done, what the Muslims have done. Whatever Swamiji, whatever I have to say, you can make out from this statement of Swamiji. The Dravidians were a non-Aryan race of Central Asia who preceded the Aryans. You see, this Aryan invasion theory had just come when Swamiji was there. So sometimes he was taking this theory of Aryan, not invasion, but Aryans coming from Central Asia, and sometimes he was not. But he just mentions it, the Dravidians had come earlier because that was the current theory. When you judge Swami Vivekananda, when you analyze Swami Vivekananda, you must not judge him, and for that matter, any prophet, for the information that they are providing, because information comes from a different source. If that source is wrong, these persons will also be wrong. Speciality of persons like Swami Vivekananda lies in the fact that they will give you the spiritual truths. They'll also tell you the ways to implement them. But as far as the informations are concerned, that's not important. Women with them stood higher than men. See, this is empowerment. No equality. Swami is very clear. The women have to higher. They subsequently divided, some going to Egypt, others to Babylonia, and the rest remaining in India. These are theories of race, not needed. Now, surprisingly, July 15th was a Monday. And this is the whole of discussion that Swamiji had that day. Shortest discussion. And this discussion is entirely on women empowerment. And theoretically, we should have stopped here on this women empowerment. But we still have time. So we'll continue with Tuesday, July 16th. So since the topic will change completely, drastically. Oh, here is Piali. I just mentioned Piali Datta. She has written her name in chat. Nice girl. So, just in case you have any question on what we discussed, you can ask. We can have a 2-minute break. I'll just Arkodas, Swamiji, can you clarify in spirituality how followers of different darshan like Advaita, Vedanta, Dvait, and Achintya Veda with Tattva's followers, spiritual mood is affected? No, I cannot say Arko because I have not followed Advait and Achintya Bheda, whatever that might mean, great persons, because I understand only Advait. I really don't. Why most people become Mayavadi? I don't know what you mean by Mayavadi. I heard somewhere Mayavadi is a derogatory term used by some stupid people. So, but what exactly you mean by Mayavadi, I don't know. I really have no idea. And Arkadas, I don't know who you are, I don't know. I'll suggest you that if you want to learn, listen to our talks. If you have preconceived ideas, and if you are confident of your learning, I suggest that you start a YouTube channel of your own and spread your message. Don't come to fight with me because I'm not interested. But Arkodas is now again saying something about Sarva Priyananda or Ishatmananda. I have no idea about their videos. So anyway, when we come across fanatics who follow a radical ideology, it becomes difficult to hold on to only spirituality as seems to be a soft corner. Hence, we need religion that can counter this fanaticism. Now, I see Viresh Bhan. You're talking about fanatics who are attacking you. Um, See, I'm a monk. I'm a Ramakrishna Mission monk. And being a monk, as also of the Ramakrishna Mission, we have extreme limitations and we cannot comment on that. Just know that Hindu society, when we talk about Vedanta or whatever it be, whatever you call, it's Hindu society was Varna based, Varnashram Dharma, not Jati based. And Varnashrama meant Brahmana, Kshatriya. Brahman, in fact, in Veda we come across only two castes, Brahman and Rajanya. Rajanya, everyone else was Rajanya. Brahman was meant to preserve the spiritual knowledge. And Rajanya, they were supposed to protect these people. So, Viresh Bhan, your religion fully sanctions use of any methodology to protect your culture, your religion. I cannot say anything beyond that. Any other question? I proceed. Uh, on Tuesday 16th, Swami is talking about Shankara's commentary. If you remember, those of you who have been listening to this talk, that Swamiji was taking a Brahma Sutra and talking from Shankara's commentary. And Swamiji begins with, the unseen cause leads us to sacrifice and worship, which in turn produce seen results. But to attain liberation, we must first hear, then think or reason, and then meditate upon Brahman. Now, before I explain this and proceed further, we need to go back to the basics. What is religion? What is spirituality? Religion is never a thought out system. And religion has nothing to do with belief. This is something you might have heard very often, that religion depends on belief. It might be true of other religions, not of Hinduism. In Hinduism, there is no belief. It is the words of the rishis, those who have seen, drashta, those who have clearly seen. The way Sri Ramakrishna saw, he had all these realizations. He saw those spiritual truths for himself. Similarly, those sages saw spiritual truths for themselves. And they passed on that knowledge to their disciples. In the Vedas, in the Upanishads, in the Puranas, in Mahabharata, that's how the system was preserved. But when these sages pass on their knowledge to their, say, disciples, disciples can rarely, rarest of rare, if you ask me personally, I'm talking, don't take any offense, because see, when I say, as far as spirituality is concerned, scriptures are concerned, I have zero emotion. Sometimes I get charged up, but it's not out of emotion. I just that is there might be some reason for getting charged up, but not emotions. I don't get emotional about these things. The little that I know of the world of religion and spirituality, there never was a guru-disciple duo like Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. It is a rare thing, absolutely rare thing, because they both stand in their own majesty. Generally, you find that the disciple stands in the majesty of his teacher, like the disciples of Jesus. You'll still find many people in India who do not know the name of Sri Ramakrishna but know the name of Swami Vivekananda. But you cannot say the same of St. John, St. Thomas, Matthews. No. They are known because Jesus was there. As for when we think of Krishna and Arjun, Arjun was a warrior. In fact, as far as spiritual this discipleship is concerned, he was not really that great. This duo of Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda is a unique phenomena, absolutely unique phenomena. There never was such a combination in the entire history of spirituality, in the entire history of religion. So all these sages, they had to stay content with ordinary disciples. So every sage did not have a disciple like Swami Vivekananda, as Sri Ramakrishna had in Swami Vivekananda. So as a consequence, certain that grandness of that idea was somewhere lost. Somewhere. And worse, when these disciples try to convey to, say, general public what to do, if you read my book Living Hinduism, there you will get this idea very clearly. Living Hinduism is a nice book. Now people say that we don't want to get into those big things. Please tell us in brief what we must do. So naturally, these disciples of the sages, they said, here is this yajna, perform this yajna. This is your connect with gods or with the gods. Someone wants to go to the heaven and he performs that yajna. How he is going to reach the heaven? So they had this beautiful term in the Vedas called apurvata. When Swamiji is using the word unseen cause, I think he meant apurvata, because in the commentary of Acharya Shankara, he doesn't use any other word other than apurvata. The speciality of apurvata is that you perform some action here and that action produces results, but that remains unseen, apurvata, unseen. And when the time comes, opportune moment comes, they give you results and you go to the heaven, or you some other good results. Now, because there is apurvata, when you go to the heaven, the sacrifices that you perform, the yagyas that you performed, they will, those results will be waiting for you. And that is why people go for sacrifices and worship, because they will produce seen results. Maybe not right now, maybe after some years, maybe when the opportune moment comes, or maybe after your death. But to attain liberation, if your goal is liberation, then you must first hear, think of reason, and then meditate upon Brahman. Call it by any name, be it Brahman, be it Atman, be it God, whatever. First is you need to hear. You need to know it very, very, very well. This is where most people make the mistake. Many think that they already know what is there to be known. Come on, this is not physics, chemistry. We discussed in the previous talk on physics and metaphysics that there's a fundamental difference between science and spirituality. In case of spirituality, you need to remain immersed for years. This is known as hearing. And then you go on thinking and reasoning, and then finally you start meditating. In religion, you keep on doing things so that you'll get some results. Here, there is no result involved. So the result of works and the result of knowledge are two different things. Acharya Shankara goes on telling this repeatedly. Actually, this entire discussion is on Advaita Vedanta, that what leads one to Advaita Vedanta? Do and do not do are the background of all morality, but they really belong only to the body and mind. As we mentioned, that these prophets, or rishis, as we say in Indian context, they knew the truth. They passed on that truth to their disciples. And the disciples further tweaked the entire thing and said, do this, don't do this. Sanskrit term for these two are vidhi and nished. Vidhi is what you need to do. Nished is what you must not do. An onlooker, one who is looking at the religion, will always say that religion is a matter of belief. Why? Because it's all about do's and don'ts. Why do's and don'ts? Because some book has said. No, it's not that. Particularly not in Hinduism. Not at all in Hinduism. In Hinduism, even these do's and don'ts are based on certain very clear spiritual principles. However, the moment action is involved, there is some anticipation of result. Why else would anyone work? So Acharya Shankara at one place very beautifully says that unless there is a purpose, not even a fool gets into it. If you are into do's and don'ts, you surely expect something. Just jokingly, I'll say, just for fun or whatever. Whenever I take bath, I always sprinkle Ganga water. This I have been doing for years, maybe 35, 40 years. And I always say that whatever impurity I might have performed, whatever wrong acts I might have performed from the last time that I sprinkled Ganga water on me, may that be purified. Om apavitra pavitro va sarvavasthan gatopi va yas maret pundari kaksham sabhaya abhyantara shuchi. So in spite of talking about Vedanta. And in spite of whatever strength I might try to convey to you, I'm a thorough believer of rituals, thorough believer. And as far as Ganga water is concerned, definitely, fully. So, do's and don'ts are the background of all moral. But ultimately, it belongs to body and mind, not to spirit. Spirituality belongs to spirit. Morality belongs to body and mind. I'll just wait here because now 5 minutes are left. So, in case you have any question based on what we have been discussing, please. Education to become a master is the main focus. Yes. Shipra Paul, Ajay Sarvapana, how can I become true Vedantin? Is there any elementary book? Well, the talks that we are having, these are pretty elementary. If you just keep listening to these talks, you will become a Vedantin, I'm sure. And those of you who have joined newly in this course, in case you have any question, you can ask. Because we don't have much time. And then Swamiji continues, all happiness and misery are inextricably connected with the senses, and body is necessary to experience them. It's obvious. Wherever there is happiness, there is misery. Oh, Kalyan Bor. Kalyan Bor is a very good friend of mine since ages. How can one memorize and understand all your talks? That would be the most stupid thing, Kalyan, to do, to memorize and understand. Swami Vivekananda had very famously said to the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, your Guru Sri Ramakrishna was original. Each one of you each one has to be original. So Kalyan, you have to be original. If you try to memorize what I say, if you try to understand, you are struggling not to be original. Don't be original. Don't copy. Sorry. Don't copy. Vedanta is not about copying. Vedanta is about becoming individuals. The higher the body, the higher the standard of virtue, even up to Brahma. But all have bodies. You need to get out of this idea of body. As long as there is a body, there must be pleasure and pain. These are intertwined. Pleasure and pain and body. Body gives you pleasure and pain. You must have body. I humorously wrote in Tia, Paradise New Home. That was my first book. That body creates hunger and food creates the body. It's a vicious cycle. If you have a body, you will be hungry. You take food and your body grows. And then there will be more hunger and the cycle continues. Only when one has got rid of the body can one escape them. The Atman is bodiless, says Shankara. Atman is beyond this idea of body, mind, and senses. Religion is fully connected with this body and senses. Religion always talks about do's and don'ts, rituals, books. Swamiji will be talking about these things. See, Sangamitra, Moitra, how can we defeat our anger situation? One request I have told you many times that, see, please, when we're discussing something, try to stay in that. Anyway, Sangamitra madam, if you are interested, we have a channel, Amrit Setu. There is a clip recently uploaded, anger management. You can listen to that talk. Number one. Or if you are comfortable only with English, then you can listen to our talk on Gita, second chapter, where it's, I think, verse number 58, 59, something like that. Dhyayato Vishayan Pungsaha. See, anger is always born of failed expectations. This is the key. Anger is always a result of failed expectation. You cannot control anger till you get out of the idea of failure and the idea of expectation. Till then, no, you cannot. Either you have to get out of failure or you will have to get out of expectation. Otherwise, no. Aditya Thackeray, Swamiji, is it right that we can attain moksha only from Manushya body? Yes, that is what our scriptures say, and their reasoning is very simple. You see, when it's a very, very simple Aditya Thackeray. They say that supposing you have a God body, you desired God body. Unless you desire, unless you act in that God body. Now, because you have desired, that means the impaling forces have been very powerful. So how can you give that up? Similarly, if you have a lower body, your acts have been vicious. So naturally, you cannot. It's only in the human body that there is some kind of a balance. You have freedom to act, and you also have a freedom to think. That is why they say it's actually reasoning. See, Acharya Shankar comments this in one of his commentaries on the Upanishads. Such a simple argument and so profound. Such a profound that supposing you say that you make a plan to go to the Himalayas. Now you have gone to the Himalayas and they say, no, you play, you wanted it. You have come here. Now you won't give it up. No? Naturally, you can't. Then Ajay Sharma Maharaji practice. I am Brahman. Oh my God, even I can't. Ajay Sharma, I don't know who taught you to think that I am Brahman. It's just not possible. No. It requires years of learning and years of contemplation. I don't know who Ajay Sharma ji who taught you to practice and it's not Brahman. Your spelling is Brahman. If you mean to say Brahman or Brahman, I don't know. No. Don't take up these ideas. These internet gurus are going to ruin minds. No. I am Brahman is not practiced. No. It requires tremendous amount of training. The normal process is you learn from some guru, you take mantra diksha, and from there slowly you rise. Don't practice Brahman. Believe me, your head will go wrong. Don't. Anyway, our time is up. We'll continue with this topic. So, thank you so much. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. In case you have any question that you'd like me to discuss, you can write your questions to ishrkm@gmail. Oh yes, ISH Aditya Thackeray, ishrkm@gmail. You send your question, and I'll try to discuss that in the next talk because we have these classes every Tuesday. Thank you.